Have you ever stared at something so simple, so ordinary for others, and felt like it was light years out of your reach? For him, it was a pair of shoes, not the kind that glow, not the latest Jordans or designer brands, just a basic, decent pair, without holes, without shame. But every morning, he slid his feet into the same torn-up sneakers. The soles were worn thin, the cold bit through them like knives. And yet he walked 5 miles to school, head down, heart heavy. He didn't ask for much, not a new phone, not likes on social media, just to not be the kid with duct tape on his shoes, just to not be the one who pretended to forget his lunch again because there was nothing to forget. He sat quietly in the back of the classroom, not because he didn't care, but because he didn't want anyone to notice how tired he looked, how hungry he felt, how broken he was becoming. People say it gets better, but to him it never did. Until one day, something changed. You see, pain has two paths, one that breaks you and one that builds you. He didn't know it yet, but he was about to choose the harder one, the one that would lead him to build a life so powerful. Even the kids who once ignored him would one day quote him. This isn't just a story about shoes. It's a story about grit, about choosing to rise when life hands you nothing but weight. This is the story of a boy the world tried to forget, and how he became the man no one could ignore. He woke each day to the same bleak walls, a small room that barely kept out the cold, and the noise of a city that didn't sleep, and certainly didn't care. His world was measured in broken things: a leaking roof, a cracked window, and shoes so worn they barely clung to his feet. But what weighed heaviest wasn't the cold or the cracks. It was the feeling of invisibility, of being unseen by the very world he was forced to live in. School was supposed to be the place where he could escape, but the reality was harsher than any street corner or empty kitchen. While other kids arrived with new backpacks and fresh sneakers, he shuffled in quietly, hiding the holes in his shoes with duct tape, praying no one would notice. Teachers rarely called on him. Classmates sat with their friends, laughing, texting, sharing stories about the weekends, things he never experienced. The silence around him wasn't just loneliness, it was an unspoken message. You don't belong here. Hunger became a constant companion. It wasn't just physical, it gnawed at his confidence, his focus, and his spirit. His stomach rumbled louder than any lesson being taught. On rainy days, the mud soaked through his thin shoes, chilling his feet, reminding him of how little protection he had from the world's harshness. There were nights he lay awake, tears choking back because hope seemed like a luxury he couldn't afford. Why keep trying when the odds were stacked so mercilessly against him? The temptation to give up whispered louder than any voice of encouragement. But then one day, everything changed. It was late afternoon, the kind of fading light that makes shadows stretch long and heavy. The boy was walking home, his feet dragging through the mud and broken pavement, every step exhausting. Ahead, he saw an elderly man struggling to cross the busy street. The man had no legs, maneuvering his wheelchair with skillful hands, but slowed by the chaos of cars and honking horns. Most people glanced away or rushed past, but the boy stopped. Their eyes met. The man smiled, warm, genuine, unguarded. "At least I'm alive to see another day," he said quietly. Those words didn't just linger. They struck deep. It was the first time the boy realized strength wasn't about what you have. It wasn't about comfort or privilege. Strength was about facing what life gave you and refusing to be defeated by it. Something inside him shifted. It was subtle but irreversible. From that day forward, he made a vow, not loud or dramatic, but steady and unwavering. He would stop seeing himself as broken. He would stop letting his circumstances define his worth. Instead, he embraced the struggle. He began to push harder. He studied under streetlights long after everyone else had gone home. He took every odd job he could find, selling newspapers, helping neighbors, anything to bring in money for food and, yes, for a new pair of shoes. Every step was a battle. Every dollar earned felt like a victory. The road ahead was unforgiving. He faced failures that crushed him, moments when the weight of it all threatened to snap his spirit. But he learned resilience isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up each time, stronger and more determined. And slowly, inch by inch, he transformed. The boy who once hid in the back of the classroom, ashamed of his torn shoes, began to believe in something greater. He learned that greatness isn't gifted. It's forged in the fires of hardship. Years later, that same boy would stand on a stage, not as a forgotten kid, but as a beacon of hope. A man who built his future from the very fragments the world had tried to discard. Because sometimes the most broken beginnings lead to the strongest stories. The road from those torn shoes to where he stands today was long and often brutal. It was carved through sweat, setbacks, and moments when hope felt like a distant dream. But giving up was never an option. Every night spent studying under the dim glow of a street lamp. Every early morning delivering newspapers before dawn. Every failure, whether a lost job, a failed exam, or a broken promise, was a lesson, a stepping stone. He learned that success doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who fight for it relentlessly. Graduating high school was just the beginning. College brought new challenges, juggling multiple jobs to pay tuition, late nights filled with textbooks instead of rest, and the constant pressure of proving he belonged in a world that had never made space for him. Yet through it all, his spirit grew stronger. He refused to let the doubts of others become his own. With time, opportunity came knocking. He started small, launching a business from a cramped apartment, fueled by nothing but grit and an unshakable belief that where you start doesn't dictate where you'll finish. That boy with torn shoes became a man with a mission to change not just his life, but the lives of those around him. He hired young people from neighborhoods just like his own, those who, like him, had been overlooked, underestimated, forgotten. He gave them more than jobs. He gave them purpose. He built not just a company, but a community, a place where resilience was celebrated, where dreams were nurtured, where failures were seen as lessons, not dead ends. Standing on stages across the country now, sharing his story, he speaks with raw honesty. He tells every young person watching, your past does not define your future. Your worth is not determined by your circumstances. The only thing holding you back is the story you tell yourself. And the shoes you wear today, no matter how torn or worn, do not limit the roads you will walk tomorrow. His journey teaches us that greatness is forged in struggle, refined by resilience, and realized through relentless action. It reminds us that life will always throw challenges, but those who rise above, who keep moving forward despite the odds, are the ones who truly change the world. So if you find yourself doubting, feeling unseen or stuck, remember this: you are not your hardships. You are not your scars. You are the power you choose to unleash. Every step you take is a choice, a step toward the future you deserve. And if he could rise from worn-out shoes to become a beacon of hope and success, then so can you. Because your story isn't over yet. It's just beginning. Hey, if this story hit home for you, take a second to think about your own life. What are the torn shoes you've been carrying around? Those struggles or doubts that maybe have held you back. Here's the truth. Your past doesn't have to be your prison. You get to decide what happens next. Like Nelson Mandela said, it always seems impossible until it's done. So if you're ready to start moving forward, no matter how small that step might be, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I'll be sharing stories and motivation to help you keep pushing through. And hey, share this video with someone who needs to hear this today, because sometimes all it takes is one message to change a life. I'd love to hear from you. What's your story? What keeps you going when things get tough? Drop a comment below and let's talk. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So let's take that step together. Thanks for watching. You've got this.